You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Subscribe for new episodes on Mondays and special monthly mailbag episodes. Email us at slugfests@goldderby.com. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Awards Magnet. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, we have an incredibly busy show today. We're going to go through comedy and drama, updating our Emmy picks and talking all about these great shows that are out now.
Out now or ending this week? Have ended by the time this is up?
Yeah, we're recording this on April 10th. It's running on Monday. Joyce, we record a little early and run on Mondays. I am so excited about this TV season because so many great shows are back. We're going to start with comedy before we get to the drama, where we'll talk about The Pitt, Last of Us, and White Lotus finale, which we still haven't discussed. But we're starting with comedy because our favorite show is back with a vengeance. Hacks. Joyce?
Yes, 2 episodes. 2-episode premiere, season 4. And you have now seen the whole season.
Twice. 2 times.
Same, me too. And great stuff.
Well, it's just the best. I think people maybe I think there were some who were anti-dicting it, or when things get popular or win or beloved, or get away from being niche, there's a target on their back. And so I think people were maybe hoping that Hacks would take a step back, but it is not at all. I thought this season was absolutely awesome, and I can't wait for people to see where it goes. And while I don't think it's as good as the 3rd season, I think it's still incredibly good. That was my big takeaway.
I think the season 3 and season 4 are just different, and I think people need to keep that in mind when they're watching season 4, because obviously the way season 3 ended, I think people have a lot of high expectations for 4, and it's a different season because they're starting in a different place, obviously, Deborah and Ava. And I think what made season 3 so exciting was that it always had forward momentum, because it started off on such a high with each of them so successful with the 1-year time jump, right? And then you were excited and happy to see them reunite, right? And then the momentum just kept building from there as Deborah pursued late night, and then to get it, and then the twist at the end with the blackmail, which was great. And like season 4, starting at a completely different place, with picks up minutes after the blackmail, and they're feuding. And I love the first episode with just the pranks
George Clooney.
Pull. Yeah, George Clooney on one another, and then Michaela Watkins as the HR rep. Poor Stacey,
who goes through a lot of great things in the upcoming episodes, Joyce, I would say.
Yeah. And then they now that they're like, season 4 is like an office comedy, because now they literally work in an office building. They're corporate bots now. They answer to a boss, the network, and in episode 2, it's like they need to call a truce to get the show off the ground.
The best part about the show, returning right away is great, which we've talked about. Like, making TV real again is my big thing. Movies should be real movies. Shoot them outside. Be on sets. And TV shows should be on a consistent schedule and look like TV shows and be real TV. So I'm glad they're back like right away. Picking up right away is great. I think like the thing I love about Hacks, especially this season, is like they really are, if not ahead of the audience, I think they are such smart. The writing of the show, I think, is just so smart, in the way they build the stories. Like, clearly, like Ava, like blackmailing Deborah at the end of season 3 is a Deborah move, and like we watched her be like, oh, like kind of like Succession style, where it's like Logan was so proud of Kendall, right, to like kind of throw him under the bus in season 2. I guess, was it 2 or 3? I forget.
2. What's wrong with you?
Sorry. Sometimes they all run together. And it was a similar thing. But the thing, when you're watching it, like this season especially, a lot of people are like, you are not, like, Ava isn't suddenly Deborah. And while she did a Deborah thing, it is said repeatedly throughout the season, and this is not a spoiler, and like, she's not Deborah, and she's not as good as Deborah. And I think a big thing about this season, you'll see as you watch it, is Ava and Deborah, again, like, trying to understand each other, and how they're different and the same, and how those things can be valuable, right? Like, that they can learn from each other in different ways, maybe. And same with like you see that with like Jimmy and Kayla, and like it's like I just love the way they write these things. I just think it's such smart writing, and it's like really it respects the audience's intelligence in a way that I think a lot of shows don't, and I just think that is what helps it stand out. That's why I've like really enjoyed this season, because I just felt like that nothing that happens to me is like cheap. I guess I don't know. Like it feels like they're just like still very crisp with the writing.
Yeah, and that's one of the themes of this season, of just how it's just like how to operate in a workspace, in a work environment, and then art versus commerce, like the pursuit of art in the face of corporate red tape too. And
we mentioned this last week in our mailbag. Yes.
And yeah, like Jimmy and Kayla are just the other side of the same coin of the Deborah and Ava dynamic. Because the whole, like Ava, like she pulled a Deborah move, but she still, now that she's head writer, she still wants to be the nice boss. Like she wants to like lead with love, which is how Jimmy operates, right? Like Jimmy is a nice guy. And, Deborah holds grudges, queen of vengeance. And Kayla, now that she's partner, she wants to go guerrilla style all the time. So
it's fantastic. She's so good.
Yeah, you see that play out in both relationships throughout the season. So
I love also that I think like I'm not going to get political here, Joyce. I think the show is not like, I think you could watch this show because Deborah's a boomer and Ava's like Gen Z, right? Or I mean, I guess cusp on Gen Z and millennial. Like, what would be her?
She's young millennial and old Gen Z,
right? It's maybe you could be like, oh, it's like anti-woke or like post-woke. But I think the thing that's really funny is that they actually treat it like reality. Again, another thing I really love, but I just love that it's like, yeah, like Deborah is not always wrong. And this is a theme from the other seasons too, but Deborah's not always wrong and Ava's not always right. And like Ava, you'll see it throughout the season, has these incredibly high standards that she has to maybe reconsider in different ways. And like, I just love the show so much. And it's funny that we have Hacks and the studio as like probably the top two. Would you say that's the top two now? I mean, leaving out The Bear and Only Murders. I don't know if they're the top two, but at least two of the top four, let's say, which are interrogating like the creative process and how the industry has kind of responded. And the reason I think I still have Hacks in first, and I think you do too, obviously, and is I think the Hacks is coming at it from how can the creatives operate in a world run by boardrooms. And I think the studio at times is like a satire of those boardrooms, but is also like on the side of the boardroom sometimes, right? Like or at least it's humanizing the boardrooms a little bit, or humanizing the executives operating at the direction of the boardrooms. And I wonder if that will be enough to put Hacks ahead, because the boardrooms are they're not necessarily the heroes, I guess, of the Hollywood story.
Yeah, I would say the difference between the two of them is that on Hacks, it's character driven.
Okay.
I think you see the changing dynamic just throughout all four seasons, like the changing dynamics and how they, especially the Deborah and Ava relationship and their partnership, and how that has fluctuated in every new circumstance they've found themselves in, whether it's the tour, or just like the special, and now in a corporate environment. It's about like betting on yourself, right? Which like Deborah has done in the past too, with like the special and everything as well. So I think that's a consistent theme in the show. And you also see that this season too, as they launched the talk show. And with the studio, like that is a straight satire, which Hacks is not. So I think that allows more character-driven stories for Hacks, whereas, the studio being a satire, it's a lot of inside baseball jokes, very funny. But I don't think there's the same kind of character development with everyone there. Like, I think, some characters, especially the supporting characters, is like similar notes in multiple episodes, and I think with Seth's character, Matt, it's like every episode is him trying to do something or not to do something and failing, and also like trying to be the nice guy who like
And
loves movies.
sometimes.
Yeah. And failing. So
I will say this though, Joyce, I've heard the same critique of Hacks many times, that it's the same thing, a repetition over and over again.
Yeah, because people don't like how, like Ava and Deborah split up and get back together, basically. Yeah.
Right.
But I think every time that happens, like their relationship has evolved and changed in some way, and their own biases have, like, you see that in Deborah too, like the way, like in season 3, like when she stood up to her old pals before her colonoscopy,
Yes.
So, and I mean, obviously studio season 1, we don't know what's to come in season 2, so, but just based on season 1.
I will say, like, again, we'll talk more about these. I'm loath to, we've seen both these seasons. I've seen Hacks twice, and I've watched the studio actually multiple times as well, because they're just great. I love both these shows. So I feel like we could talk about this more as when the season ends, but I do think there's like a slight difference in why I remain confident that Hacks should remain out in front. I have the studio in second, though, still now. I don't know. In the odds, The Bear is in second, Only Murders in third, and the studio in fourth. But I still have the studio in second behind Hacks, and I have The Bear and Only Murders after that. I just think that, like, the studio is so engineered to be beloved by people within the industry that I have a hard time believing they won't be embracing the show come Emmys.
It would be very funny if it, like, not bombs, but underperforms when everyone is expecting it to explode.
It's true. If it wasn't as good as I know it is, I think I would be probably expecting that, but I know it's good and actually gets better as it goes on. So I'm like I'm pretty confident in its strength, but it would be ironic, I guess.
Yeah. I also wonder, because Seth has talked about this, how he's fielded a ton of calls from people asking, like, is this supposed to be me? And I do wonder, fragile egos in Hollywood, if some people would, he said he's told people, like, that's not you, but what if, like, these people don't believe that and, like, they're offended,
True, but the flip side is, that's true, but what about the flip side, which is, oh, I knew that was about that asshole, it's not me, it's that other guy.
But so it's the same thing, it's the balance, so it's like, what if there's enough people who think it's like, they're so vain, they think it's about them.
If you either think it's about them or they think it's about someone they don't like, even if it is about them. So
it's like, we know this is Amy Pascal.
That one is good, and he treats her very respectfully. Obviously, they love Amy Pascal. So there's nothing but say nice things about Amy. In terms of Hacks, Joyce, and these shows, like, I mean, zero, like, Jean Smart again, just winning again, seems so faded. Just like ordained. That's the word. I love that word. Just no doubt, she has so many great things in this season. I actually think she's arguably better this season than she was last season.
I was like, when I finished the season, I was like, what should she submit? I mean, like, tapes don't matter, obviously, in this era anymore. But I was like, she has several options.
I think you could argue that, like, again, no spoilers, but I think 9 is as strong as any episode they've ever done.
Yes.
But in 10 also, Jean has a ton of really great stuff. So I mean, she could really submit either of those.
6 is good too. So
another great one. Yeah. She's just loaded with material this season. I think it's like a real tour de force. And like I said, I actually think she's stronger this season than last season. And she's way out in front already. And I just can't imagine her not continuing her domination. Like, it would be, I literally can't even imagine her not winning an Emmy for this season again. Whether the show wins, whether anybody else wins, like, Jean is the constant, I feel like, for this show and this race. So, and then for supporting actress, Joyce, Hannah Einbinder, boy, I was really hoping she would win last season. She obviously did not. Liza Colon Zayas won.
Yes.
Hannah's still in first in the odds, though. The Gold Derby users are ride or die for Hacks. So she's just number one.
I think that's, a lot of hope dicting as well. Like, I want her to win. I want her to win last year too. I don't know if it'll ever happen. She's great this season too, but I mean, we've discussed this before, like last year especially, and also kind of in general, if like Ava is just a character that voters don't vibe with.
She's so intentionally annoying at times. That it's hard to. I was like watching it when I was watching. I was like, I just could see people like finding her so grating at times that it might be tough. Even though she's so funny. I think she's she's incredibly funny this season. That's what I would say.
And
She's got a lot of really
so
good
many
stuff.
physical. I mean, in the second episode, when she tries to run back up the escalator at the Americana with the Wolf Girl poster on the, I'm like,
good. So good. She's great. Now we both have added another Hack star, I believe, to our Emmy supporting actress.
I mean, I had her in there before I even saw the season, so
I added her in after watching it. Meg Stalter for Hacks, which I think I predicted last year and failed. So I'm just going to go back to the well and maybe fail again. But wow, Kayla is so funny this season as a character and has so many amazing moments that I feel like if the show is going to expand at all in these acting categories, this would be where it seems obvious. And if they love the show enough, I think she could be in, even with 6 slots, even if it doesn't expand to a 7th. I think if it was a 7th, it would be almost easy. It would obviously be easier for her to get in, but I think even with 6, she should get in.
Yeah, I mean, I might just keep her until the end. I don't know. Like, hopefully there'll be a 7th spot again here. But yeah, she has more material this time than she's ever had, really. And 9 would be her take. So
good. Though I will say the line I was talking about last week, Joyce, when we did this, was in the first episode. I believe Deborah calls Ava a C-word.
Yes.
And as Jimmy says, not in the fun RuPaul way, in the angry boomer way. And then later, after Ava is yelling at, I think, Kayla about her apartment search, is that what that's in that moment? And then Kayla goes, she's not beating those C allegations. And that just made me laugh and laugh so many times.
The line that I died at was when she called Brian from Family Guy hot.
So good. It would be great for her to get in. And then we're not doing guests yet, but I think we both have a fave coming up. Some of the guests, they're like very angrily saying you can't
Julianne
spoil.
Nicholson was announced. So
she's announced. Julianne Nicholson will show up in what episode is this? Now she comes in. She comes in 5. So you have a few weeks before you're going to see Julianne Nicholson. Truly, completely out of her mind. It is one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time, and she's so good.
You get a 5 years intro, but it gets better later in the season. So
absolutely fantastic. It did not, even as a Julianne Nicholson fan, did not know she had it in her. And I am very excited to see how, if she could maybe ride this all the way to a guest actress win, maybe.
She has this and Paradise this season, 2 polar opposite performances.
Fantastic. And then I think Hacks will be competitive everywhere it's usually competitive. Writing and directing, right? Probably for these later episodes. I think, it should be just all in the same places.
Yeah, I am curious to see which one they would submit for writing. I think Lucia would be their directing submission again, and PWD back in supporting actor.
Didn't even mention Paul W. Downs, but he's so good and remains good.
9 would be a great tape for him as well.
It's just great. He's so good also, I think, and again, very funny, and his work with Meg Stalter is just so great. He's such a great presence on the show. All the other guest stars are great. Again, who they've announced are really, typically good.
Yeah, Caitlin Olsen, she has a small part in one episode and then a bigger part in another episode. So I think she can get back in and guest again. So
she could. Not as funny as last year's performance, though, I would say.
She no, she does not say her tagline this time, unfortunately. So
yes. Other person I wanted to shout out, I don't think he'll get nominated, but Dan Bukatinsky, I thought was just great this season. I really loved him. I thought he's so good. He's in it a lot more than I expected, and was delighted by his appearance every time.
He's the straight man, the EP, the boss. So he doesn't get a lot of funny lines, but his reactions are
he doesn't get a lot of funny lines.
Underrated because he has to react to the nonsense that Deborah and Ava.
Is it the first again? Apologize. You're probably, people watching this are annoyed already. But if you were watching, is it the first episode or the second episode, Joyce? When I think it's the first with the pranks, and Ava gives him or Deborah gives him Ava's underwear.
Yes.
And then she's talking about his sexual orientation, and he's like, "Don't assume I'm gay." And she's like, "Well, you have a picture of you marrying a man in your office." And he's like, "You don't know who that man is. You don't know who that man is."
No, he's
the best. Yeah, so good.
And then I also love when he called her from that seafood place.
Fantastic.
that Deborah RSVP'd them for and didn't tell Ava, and then he's like, "Don't bother coming." I did my tie and
So
like
lobster bisque, I
yeah.
believe. So good. We haven't done comedy in a little while, Joyce. We don't need to go through our picks completely, but have you done any adds or subtractions? Last time we did this, I didn't have like Janelle James in there, which was stupid, and now I have her
you've
back
been trying
in.
to drop her for 2 years.
Yeah, but that's so stupid. People in the comments were like, Chris hasn't caught up on Abbott Elementary, and he hadn't, but now he has, and she's in. Fine, I'm totally in. I feel like everybody has the same 7 shows for series. The 4 we've mentioned: Hack Studio, Bear, Only Murders, Abbott, Shrinking, What We Do in the Shadows, and then I still have the 4 seasons there in my 8th slot, ahead of Nobody Wants This, which is the other Netflix comedy series that was more widely seen, but also flopped with the guilds, it seemed.
Yeah, I have Nobody Wants This in 8th.
The problem with, we talked about this a month ago. 4 seasons still isn't even out. There's no reviews. The embargo is not until it comes out. Even the feature embargo is like not for a couple of weeks. So it's like, you're not going to really be hearing much about this show until late April. And I was like, I just think that's awfully late. But at the same time, I'm very confident because I've seen it. Take that for what it's worth. I do think Nobody Wants This could get in based on its mass scale. And like, like we said, like that's a most popular show here, arguably, right? So like, it should be, maybe it could get in just based on that. But these other shows I'm not super confident in, like Poker Face, 4 seasons, St. Denis Medical. I was almost toying with that, or Mid-Century Modern, which is on Hulu now, and people seem to like, Joyce.
I mean, maybe that is a sleeper, like it's come out early enough, it was a full binge, and it's, an old school throwback.
Yes.
Actual live audience.
I kind of think it could be a sleeper for sure too, especially because there's really that 8th spot just feels open to me. I don't know. You know what I mean? Assuming like What We Do in the Shadows is safe and like Shrinking is safe and stuff. I just think that last spot has a lot of flexibility, and maybe it could be Nobody Wants This or 4 seasons or Poker Face, I guess, with its 6 episodes. But more like,
I mean, Poker Face is coming out later than the 4 seasons.
But it's the second season, so.
It's the second season, but it's also like, it didn't get in for the first season either. So It's like.
So I'm like, I don't know. I actually was toying with Mid-Century Modern too. I haven't put it in yet, but I could see that maybe, like you said, like just an old school TV show that people like. I don't know.
Like, but Nobody Wants This, I think it could rely on visibility, because obviously that was a huge hit for Netflix. So you can just presume that most voters have seen it. And it's, it's a very nice show, very easy to get into, right? It's very sweet and funny. And I think if you're looking for like another Netflix comedy, I think one of the things is that no other show has really broken out. I mean, I guess you could say Running Point.
That has broken out a little bit.
Like that's been more successful than like The Residence.
It has.
I mean, they also have A Man on the Inside, but it feels like that's just a Ted Danson push, right? And then now they have the 4 seasons coming up, but it's so late. So I don't know, like, again, if this were like 5 years ago, May 1st would be okay. But we've seen in recent years, like May drops have struggled, even with high profile people involved.
Yeah. I'm going to still go with it for now. I just am like confident in the show. And I think it could be like a thing. I think it could be more successful than some of these other new shows they had. I guess we'll see. We talked about actress a little bit. I'd still have Tina Fey in there, and the same Natasha Lyonne and Selena Gomez, Quinta Brunson, Io Debris, and Jean Smart. I guess I could have Kristen Bell in there for Nobody Wants This. That's the top 6 in the odds. She's like 4th in the odds now.
I mean, I have her, but I can see her missing. I mean, I can see Natasha missing too. I have her too. And then for actor, I have the top 6, which we don't love, but it's like Martin Short, Jeremy Allen White, Adam Brody, Seth Rogen, Steve Martin, Jason Segel. Yeah, I mean, I have the top 6 in both leads.
And then supporting actress, like I said, I have Meg Stalter, so I don't have Jessica Williams, who's 3rd in the odds for Shrinking. I just love her in the show, but I just think maybe she could get squeezed out because we're talking about things being too late. I'm worried that it's like too early and these other shows will have bigger buzz, right? You know what I mean? Like I have Meg Stalter in instead of her, basically.
I don't have Catherine O'Hara, which I think most people have. But I do wonder if, like, how much Catherine Hahn would be a factor.
I almost put her in instead of Meg, honestly. I think Catherine Hahn could get in. One of the things that not necessarily surprised me because she's so good, but a little bit surprised me is that she's really popped for people who love the studio. You know what I mean? Like
she has a lot of lines, like one-liners and zingers. So
she's really funny.
Yeah.
How about a posthumous nomination for Linda Lavin, Joyce?
That would be lovely. I don't know. I mean, maybe if Mid-Century Modern really pops.
And then for supporting actor, I put Ike Barinholtz in. I spoke to him, so you knew I was going to do that, obviously.
I have Ike in as well, so that's the top 6. I have the top 6.
I thought of dropping Tyler for Coleman Domingo.
Of course you would. Of course. You put Janelle back in, so you have to drop another Abbott person.
Well, I was trying to figure out how I could get Coleman Domingo in, and I didn't want to drop Ike. I think Coleman Domingo could get in. Just people, Joyce, people love Coleman Domingo, and he's really quite good on 4 seasons. Again, the visibility of it and the lateness of it is giving me pause. But I think he could sneak in here as a nominee.
I did like him on the 4 seasons. Yes. I'm gonna hold on 4 seasons until it premieres, and I see what happens.
Now, if they added a 7th slot, I would be happy to add him back in, though. Coleman, I mean. Yeah, it's fun. The other thing I was thinking before we move to drama, Joyce, and the other big shows coming up, one thing I was wondering, here's what I want to ask you. What if The Bear season 4 is great?
You've mentioned this before, so you've asked this before.
Why wouldn't it, if it's actually great, like this show has won so many Emmys. It won so many Emmys last year, even though it lost to Hacks. It won 3 of the 4 acting Emmys in these categories. Like, I understand the 3rd season was not everybody's cup of tea, to quote our great filmmaker Spike Lee about Green Book. But what if season 4 is? And I don't know, like, I was like, what if it could just dominate again, like, in these categories? Like, maybe is it actually, if it's not again, or if they moved on, or they don't like it as much. Like, I'm not saying it's going to beat Hacks for comedy series, because I do think that was like a statement, not just on the quality of The Bear, because it was up for season 2, which people like thought was like one of the best TV seasons ever, but that it was not a comedy. And I think that really hurt in the comedy series category. But in these acting categories, like, why isn't The Bear, what if The Bear just kind of wins these again?
I mean, it can, but I think like it's already competed at the Winter for season 3. And Jeremy she 3-peated at the Globes just because, they don't watch TV, and
Correct.
There was like no other like strong competition there, and he was even there. So, and then he didn't even lose his first award for The Bear until SAG when Martin Short won, because they did not nominate him at Critics' Choice. Like, Liza was the only Bear nomination there. So yeah, he had not suffered a loss for the show until then, which is insane. So, but I think like, I don't think, and they don't like, when we talk about like awards in general, we make it sound like they're a monolith and like everyone is in a room in agreement about these things. Like, they don't, like, the Emmy voters don't hate The Bear. Like, I'm sure obviously some people don't like the show or are out on the show, but I think in general they like the show. Like, it'll probably get more nominations than Hacks again, right? And it's competitive below the line, as we know. It'll probably win some of those again, maybe, even though like it didn't do too well at the Guilds. But I think it'll get the nominations. But I think, we've talked about how it's lost last year, which was a surprise. Like, I think that gave people permission to move on from it. And I think it's also one of these shows that burned really brightly when it came out, right? And then I'm not saying like it's time in the sun is over, but maybe like that was just like the honeymoon period is maybe over. Like, it's still going to be around, but it was like the initial excitement of the first season and the second season too, which people, I think it's better than the first season. And I think that's the general consensus. I think that like people have moved on from that, especially with the divisive 3rd season. So I think now like the level of excitement, like there's still fans of it. It's more on an even ground.
I agree with everything you're saying. I still think it could win those 3 supporting categories, like 3 acting categories, excuse me, supporting actor, supporting actress, and actor. Again.
I mean, I have Evan at first because he's the most likely to be nominated. So
right, and we don't have to worry about wins for now. But I'm like, Eliza Colon-Zayas had the better episode in season 3 than she did in season 2, and she won for season 2. I mean, I understand they're all kind of tied together. Joyce, how's the drama categories feeling? How's your favorite show, The Pitt?
The Pitt, I believe, is in 4th place now in the odds.
So we're recording this last week before the finale.
I mean, yeah, we're recording this the day of the finale.
Do you think people will move it up based on the finale, even higher?
Yes, probably. We can talk about finale now since
yes.
This is after. But the finale, you know, it's a very solid finale. But it was pretty low key. There's no like major cliffhanger or anything. It was, you know, like the last 2 episodes were basically like a denouement from the mass casualty of 12 and 13. So, which I like because it's more realistic this way. And, you know, the show is deeply committed to realism. So it's like, you know, they just wrap up their shift and like they do have to go home at the end of the day, you know. So and then, you know, Noah, there's some like lovely like bookend moments with the pilot, because in the pilot, when Robbie starts his shift, he finds Abbott on the roof because Rabbit just had like a whole case and everything, and then he basically like talks like Abbott was gonna do, but he like talks him off the edge. And then in the finale, it's Robbie who's on the roof, and then like Abbott comes up, and then they all like a tradition the staff had is like they go to the nearby park and they have beers at the end of the shift. So they do that, and then Robbie walks home. So and that's how it ends. And I think it's a very nice ending to a day, a 15-hour shift.
This show is really just rocketed up.
Yeah, like the last 2 weeks has really surged in like every way possible. Just
your
like,
corner has gotten very crowded, Joyce.
It has, and it bothers me.
You are on the corner first for The Pitt. You're obviously ER bona fides are legend, and now everybody's just copying your lead.
I know, like step off my beat, guys.
So,
come on. Yep.
So the top 4 in the odds, including The Pitt. It's Severance, Last of Us, White Lotus, and The Pitt. Severance finished up, strong season, a lot of online buzz. The fans of Severance love Severance. It is their favorite show, clearly. Great stuff. The White Lotus completed a couple weeks ago now, or I guess last week. Last week. Math is hard sometimes, Joyce.
We know you can't math.
Not everybody's favorite, I would say. And Mike White would tell you to basically fuck off. He said it's not, in not so many words, like fuck off, basically, to people who didn't like it, which I loved. I loved all the posts, the Howard Stern interview Mike White did. Just awesome. Mike White could not give a single shit about any of this, which I love. Not everybody's favorite season, though. I think the consensus was not as good as the first 2 seasons.
Yes.
I thought it was really great. A lot of great things in the finale, which we'll spoil here. If you haven't watched White Lotus, what are you waiting for? I thought it was good that they killed off multiple people. I thought that was like a way they would go anyway, because the first 2 seasons were single. I did think it got a little away from... It just felt like a little broad to me with the shootings and stuff. I don't know. And it was very predictable in terms of like a lot of stuff that happened people anticipated happening, which isn't a bad thing, just a fact, basically, right? Like I think a lot of people were expecting Chelsea to die or Rick to die. That they both died makes sense. The smoothie being potentially poisonous was clocked early on. But the only thing that didn't really pay off was the monkeys being involved.
I mean, I have no opinion on the finale because, like, I'm not really into the White Lotus, as you know.
I know.
So, I thought like all of that is fine. Like, yeah. So sure.
So then that's the White Lotus. So that's them. Severance, I think, in terms, if you're in a vacuum, Severance season may be more successful in culture.
I would
the White Lotus.
say so. I think the Severance finale is more successful than the White Lotus finale. I would say that.
At least in the consensus. And then you have The Last of Us, which is back. First episode was last night, Joyce. Seen it. 7-episode season. So not a lot of time for the show to really go through stuff. And a lot of the reviews last week when last week when you're watching, a lot of the reviews ding the show for feeling incomplete. Which
they're splitting up the game.
Which I think a lot of people were expecting based on how they were going to split up the game. And even in interviews, Craig Mazin was like openly talking about the comp to Empire Strikes Back, which is great. I think nowadays Empire Strikes Back is considered the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, and people love Empire Strikes Back, and it's been obviously so influential for a lot of people like Craig Mazin. Anyone doing like a genre show has referenced Empire Strikes Back in these middle portions and this and that. The thing about Empire Strikes Back is when it was released, no one really liked it. It's very polarizing. Star Wars fans were mad at it. Critics thought it was like half a movie, didn't really pay off the resolution, and blah, blah, blah. And that was a lot of the tone of the reviews, which are all incredibly positive. The Rotten Tomatoes score and the Metacritic score are still sterling for Last of Us. But if you read the reviews, a lot of them are disappointed in Last of Us. It's one of those weird things where the reviews are still good, but they're still like, I didn't like it as much as season one. And I'm wondering, with where we know the show goes, based on if you know the game, how will people feel about this season in the end? I think, so basically what I'm saying is this Severance isn't first in the odds. Is the Pitt maybe the second? Is the Pitt of these shows, of these four shows, the most? Will it end up being the most creatively successful with this season versus Severance, ahead of White Lotus and Last of Us? Not necessarily in terms of like what has the best shot of winning, because these shows are also so big, and the White Lotus I think will have like a lot of fans and get a lot of acting nominations, as we expect. But I'm just like, creatively, you could argue the Pitt is as successful as any of the other ones. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, especially because there was no expectations for the show when it started. We talked about this last week too. Just very under the radar when it launched, and its success has been organic, and it's proven that a broadcast style procedural can work on streaming.
Yes. Now, I still have the White Lotus in first in my picks, because I just think that like it's the noise. I think until The Last of Us gets into like its meaty episodes, it was still the noisiest of these shows, even noisier than Severance, I think, in a broad cultural sense. I think more people have watched the White Lotus. I think like the fact that it was controversial helped it. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, like, I think a lot of people would agree online that the Severance finale was like a big success and people really liked it. But like the White Lotus is like in People magazine, in the New York Post, like these are like tabloids are writing about the White Lotus finale, whereas that's not necessarily what you're seeing from Severance. I think it like broke through this season in a way that even the second season of White Lotus did not. So I think that scale and still affection for the show, and especially its actors, could have it in first. But I'm wondering if the Pitt should be higher than Last of Us, I guess. I don't know.
Are you going to put the Pitt in first before I do?
I'm not going to put the Pitt in first. I have White Lotus, Severance, The Last of Us, and then I have the Pitt. But I'm thinking of putting the Pitt in third behind Severance. I guess I just want to see how the culture responds to The Last of Us versus the critics, because like I said, all the reviews are really strong. Like, but if you read the reviews beyond the Rotten Tomatoes score, there's some cracks showing, right? Like, I mean, it's just is like, oh, and the thing I think that was special about the first season of White Lotus, the thing that was special about the first season of Last of Us is that while it is this post-apocalyptic Walking Dead dreadful show in terms of like, boy, there's a lot of misery, you have that central relationship between Joel and Ellie, and it felt like a different take on that post-apocalyptic zombie thing. And this season, because Joel and Ellie are at odds, it does kind of sound like it's more like The Walking Dead, which is a show that people like, but not a show that is going to win Best Drama Series. You know what I mean? And like, I'm worried that is going to hold it back, even with its 26 or 27 nominations and like potential wins in the acting categories and all these things. Maybe that holds it back a little bit.
I do wonder. I mean, I don't know. Like we know what happens in you and I mean, us, we know what happens in the second game.
Yes.
And obviously the gamers know what happened
and
in the second game.
Anybody who was interested and wanted to read the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, you could Google, but obviously some people don't want to be spoiled.
No, I know.
So I do wonder how that will land.
I don't want to mention, but based on, if you read the reviews knowing the games, it does sound like they have interesting ways into this narrative thing. And I think that if it plays out like I expected based on these reviews and my knowledge of the game, I think it will land well. But I also think the way they end the season based on the game lends itself to just stopping. instead of
I think
culminating.
that's one of the criticisms in the reviews, right? Because they are splitting the game, which we knew about. Like they've talked about this before, and like Craig has said, like he could see them adapting just the second game, which this season 2 is based on, into 3 seasons. Like he could see that it's stretching out to 3 seasons, just adapting the second game.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it depends on like how the season leaves off. Like if it does, like you can have, obviously you can have a cliffhanger that feels satisfying, right? But I do, like, I've never played the game, so I don't know like how it ends, you know, like I don't and
like one of the things, based on the reviews again, I feel like I don't think we're spoiling it, so I feel like we're doing okay. Like, but based on reading the reviews and how like we know it splits this game up, and like how you said, like they even talked about maybe splitting the game up into thirds, right, instead of half. It reminds me a little of, and I haven't seen it. I've just seen the first episode, which I thought was great. I think the first episode is so good, that aired last night, and it's so good. It's like really good. Love. There's a great Pedro Pascal is so great in it. The scene with Catherine O'Hara is great. I love Isabella Merced. I think is like really good and could be a nominee in the supporting actress category, especially if Caitlin Dever isn't in it as much as maybe we all expected, based on her character's prominence in the second game, and maybe has more to do in the third season. But it reminds you a little of The Bear season 3, which we were just talking about, but like The Bear just ends, right? Remember, it was like they built, and it was clearly like the third season, beyond your frustrations with the facts and all these other things, it felt like half a season. It didn't feel like a complete season. That was one of the big critiques, right? Like it just stops, and like we know we're going to get the rest in season 4. And I wonder if The Last of Us will feel the same way. You know what I mean? Where it's like not a cliffhanger as much as just an end.
I do think the difference, like having not seen season 2 of The Last of Us,
okay, yeah, right.
Like I think the difference would be if The Last of Us does this, like there will actually be plot movement, which like the Bear season 3, that was one of the criticisms. It was like it just felt like it was spinning its wheels throughout the 10 episodes, and then it's like you get like you get the reviews, and then it's over.
Right.
You know, so I think it a lot depends on the plot movement of season 2 of The Last of Us 2. Because like I think you can end it. Obviously they're ending it without completing the game. So it's like finding the right way to end it that won't leave people who are familiar with the game angry, or even people who are not familiar with the game angry with everything preceding it. So like they want, like you can have the cliffhanger if it makes it feel like everything that they've watched has been worth it. Right.
And so this is stuff we don't know. Like we said, like I haven't seen the second season either. We've just seen the first episode. So I'll be curious to see how they do it, but just based on like based on the reading between the lines of reviews, whatever. That said, like Last of Us is going to get like 25, and the first season got 24 nominations. I think it could lose some of its guest nominations, but still get like 24 or 25 nominations, basically.
It's craft heavy, so it'll get a lot of stuff below the line.
And I do think Isabella Merced could get in, because like Storm Reed won basically for the guest for her great episode with Bella Ramsey. And like, I feel like that's
Isabella will have like all her scenes.
I was just like, I really think that's like Bella. A thing. I do really think that's a thing. Like Dina and Ellie are obviously so connected, and you see that in the first episode.
And she has all the standout notices too, Isabella. So
yeah, so I think she maybe will get in, and maybe Caitlin Dever ends up having to run guest. There's only 7 episodes, so she's in the first episode.
I mean, she doesn't have to run guest. No. Like you just max out of guest. Like you could be eligible for guest and still run supporting. So they could still run her supporting if they want to, especially if it's like we know Abby's importance. Later on, so it could be like setting up, like, you know, maybe she'll be more in season 3, right? So it's like you want to get people in the mindset of the importance of her character, you know, that she's an important supporting character. I mean, like Allison Janney's only in 2 episodes of The Diplomat, I know. She might be in supporting.
Right. Anything else here? So like I still have like did you put Noah Wyle in first for the Pitt and actor?
No, I haven't moved. You know how I operate. I don't jump the gun as quickly as some other people do.
So you have Pedro in first still.
I do have Pedro in first. I think too. Noah is actually second the odds now.
It's Adam Scott, Noah, Pedro, Gary Oldman, Sterling K. Brown, and then
Amazing.
Eddie Redmayne for Day of the Jackal, then Lee Jung Jae, and then my fave, John Hamm for Your Friends and Neighbors, which is out now. What a fucking blast that show is.
I mean, you want to do a tight 5 on Your Friends and Neighbors?
What a show.
Stumped for it?
Immediately, an immediate win. Jonathan Tropper, immediately, and I interviewed these people, so I'm obviously compromised, Joyce. That said, I was like, man, when watching the show, I was like, this is like Aaron Sorkin shit. Like, it flies. The dialogue is so great. I'm not surprised he cast Olivia Munn and Amanda Peet, Sorkin vets. And then when I interviewed him, he was like, yeah, I love the Olivia Munn in the newsroom. And I was like, no shit, because like it's like very much the same rhythms on the dialogue. Ham is so good. It's just like really, he's like right in the pocket of what makes him so good. I think it's great. I think the show is so much fun. And I was like, I hope enough people watch it, but I think his track record is an Emmy. He's got 18 Emmy nominations, Joyce, which is absolutely demented. So I feel like why wouldn't he get a 19th? I no disrespect to Eddie Redmayne. I'm like, I think the visibility of Day of the Jackal for U.S. audiences and this show, Your Friends and Neighbors, is not going to be that dissimilar. And I think that could put him in, but it's a great show. Can't wait to watch more.
I mean, we'll see if he moves up after its premiere this weekend.
I hope so, but
I don't know.
He's stuck in 8th. I have him at 100 to 1 though.
Oh, good for you.
I like the show so much. I don't have it anywhere else. I would say I think the most realistic nominations for it are Ham and writing. At least a writing nomination, which I think is not totally out of the realm of possibilities.
I guess it's also like we know Severance is Apple's priority in drama,
right? And
I would say Adam Scott, this category specifically too. So
I was like, maybe they don't need to do very much to get Ham in. I mean, he was just in for the morning show last year.
Well, he was a double nominee last year.
I know, but I'm saying from Apple stuff, like he was just in. I'm like, they don't really need to do very much. I don't think to get him in. It just has to get enough. It doesn't have to be like prioritized. It just has to be seen. And they've obviously done a good job of like getting it in the world.
Have they done?
I think so. I mean, I've seen them all over the place. Like they've been doing a lot of promotion.
That's just a press tour, though. I mean, it's another thing. It's just like it's still an Apple show, right? It's like, as I've said a million times, like none of my friends in real life have Apple. This doesn't matter for the industry, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, it's always hard to discern the awareness of Apple shows in comparison to shows on other streamers.
I'm trying to think what else I've done. I really made no other changes. I'm trying to put Isabella Merced in for Last of Us, and I'd have to basically drop Caitlin Dever, and I don't want to do that just yet. I want to see more episodes, but...
So you did not add a 6th, White Lotus.
I have Carrie Coon, Parker Posey, Amy Lou Wood, Leslie Viv, and Natasha Rothwell, who I kept in. We talked about this, about potentially dropping her, but I thought actually Belinda's arc was fucking great. And I loved the resolution there. And I thought that was like really good. And
I also like people who did not like that she turned into Tanya.
It's an incredible worldview of the show. It's a worldview that I think you and I both have. And that's why I appreciate it so much, seeing it on the show reflected back. I love seeing things reflected back, but I did not add anyone else.
Yeah, like that makes total sense.
So Carrie Coon, Emmy win for her monologue. That was the prevailing thing, Joyce. I don't know if you're totally down on this. I think you think maybe Parker Posey could win.
I mean, I don't have either of them at first, so
you have Caitlin Dever in first.
Yeah, I still have Caitlin. I mean, like, why am I like moving it? Like,
I don't do
things.
Do you think like Parker Posey? Do you think like there's a world where Parker Posey ends up actually the winner, not Carrie Coon?
I don't know. I mean, like, I've never stumped for either of them. So I know last week we had a question, basically calling the supporting categories for Walton Goggins and Parker Posey, and then we said that what if it's Walt and Carrie, just joking, because last year they were both nominated in lead.
Yes.
And lost. So, but I think, a lot of people compare Parker to Jennifer Coolidge. Because she's the funny character and she has great lines. I think the difference between them is that Jennifer had her own arcs and storylines in both seasons, whereas Victoria, she was basically the only member of her family that didn't have her own storyline. It was like a lot of it was just her reacting to things, and grade reactions, like her reaction just like her facial reactions in the finale when Piper was telling her how she can't live a monastic lifestyle, And
the best.
it's great. And then like her like thumbs up to Jason Isaacs when they were hugging. Yeah, so
It's just
I don't
fantastic.
know. Yeah, so like
I can see her winning, but I don't know.
She has like like she's the funnier character. But yeah, I think people are in the tank. I mean, people have been in the tank for Carrie since The Leftovers.
I have Carrie in first. I think she's going to win. Your logic, I'm assuming, for having Caitlin Dever in first is that they'll split. They're too close, probably, right? Like Carrie Coon and Parker Posey from the same show.
No, it's more that I've always had Caitlin in first, and I am not reactive to things that just happened.
Interesting.
You know,
what is that like?
I mean, you tell me what it's like to be reactive to everything.
It's just the normal way of life for me, so I don't know. But I'm like, I'd love to know what it's like.
It's like, you know, I don't have to Pitt or Noah Wiley in first.
That's crazy. I if it was my favorite show, like it's yours or one of yours, I would immediately be like, first place, just like industry style. No, I don't even have it anywhere. Industry.
No,
Alas.
It's like I like to think about things more.
Interesting thinking.
Yeah.
Interesting to know.
But it's also like in the moment, like in the afterglow of the finale, it's so easy to be like, it's over. Like she won. And I know we've like said this before about like other shows too, and like certain episodes. But I think when, I think it's different when like it's like obvious, like for a front runner, whereas like here, I think it is competitive for the win.
Right.
So it's less clear.
Joyce, let's wrap here. Yeah, just a couple of notes, programming notes. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Next week, we're going to be back with a special episode all about your favorite show, The Pitt.
It's going to be a Pitt Fest, but less fatal.
Can't wait. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be great. And we'll be back next week with that episode. All right, Joyce, I'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news and email us at slugfests@goldderby.com.